Hey, what's up dudes and dudettes? Welcome back. I thought this would be a pretty fun video to make to discuss what VG Charts has just released as the 10 best-selling retail games of 2015 for the first half of the year. Now, if I remember correctly, I think that this is up through the week ending in July 11th. I know my months. So July 11th, which is effectively like right halfway through the year. I know this because it's a week before my birthday, and my birthday is kind of the middle of the year there. So the first half of 2015, physical retail copies only. They're not including any digital sales. And we do also know, everyone always brings this up, VG Charts is only so accurate. We know they're not completely accurate, but I think given that this took, over a month for them to put this together, I think means that these are going off of more hard numbers. It's not just what VG Charts does, where they do research discussing with retailers and the different companies in the industry to kind of get a pretty good approximation of console and game sales. Once it's been a few weeks, I think these are coming from actual official NPD numbers. That's kind of my assumption. Regardless, even if this isn't 100% accurate, we know that it's close enough to be accurate to at least discuss. I thought this was pretty cool, to see what the 10 best-selling games are. I, of course, appreciate that these are retail copies, you know me. They say it's still pretty hard to accurately track digital sales, so I don't know how long it's going to be before we can actually start including those in sales numbers, or maybe game companies in the NPD will start releasing different figures and different charts to reflect the physical retail copies and the digital copies of game sales in the future. So we don't know. For now, we're only tracking accurately physical copies. So this is retail only. Still impressive numbers when you think about it. Also, they mention here that in the case of any multi-platform game listed on this list, they're including all the different platforms. So a game that might come out on the Xbox One and PS4, which we know there's many of out there, they're including combined sales, or PC and stuff like that. So just so you know, that's a disclaimer. So I'm just going to discuss all 10 games and what I think of the games based on if I've played them or not and their success, and just sort of kind of discuss it and see what you guys think about it. So coming in, starting at number 10, is a pretty exciting game. It's Splatoon at 1.31 million units sold through January. Or God, I keep doing that. I'm so sorry. July. So through July, 1.31 million units for Splatoon. That's really impressive for two reasons. One is it's a console exclusive. It only released on one platform, the Wii U. Also, the game came out in the very end of May, so they only have like 6 weeks worth of sales, and that console exclusive game sold that many units, enough to come in at number 10 on the 10 best-selling physical games of the year so far. That's really impressive. Splatoon is an amazing game. I haven't really talked about it a whole lot on the channel, but it's a great game, and I've had some issues with how the map rotation thing is set up, and that sort of killed my hype for the game. And it's why I don't spend a whole lot of time playing it on my free time, because after like 4 or 5 matches, like I've played the same map sometimes 3 or 4 times in a row, and I'm like, oh my god, I can't do this. But that being said, the way they've been rolling out all the free content updates has been amazing. It's a really cool release structure platform that I think will be adopted by more companies, including Nintendo, with other releases going forward. The gameplay is phenomenal. The new music in the most recent update is to die for. That game has like quadrupled in value based on their most recent updates. So that's pretty cool. But long story short, yeah, Splatoon, really impressive showing with 6 weeks worth of sales exclusive to one platform and still coming in at number 10. Imagine if this came out earlier in the year. It could be much, much higher on the list. So Splatoon doing well at number 10. Number 9, this makes my heart so happy. Bloodborne, 1.39 million units. Now, this is a game that, if I remember right, came out in February or March, so it's had much more time to be on the sales chart. But it's another console exclusive. That's PlayStation 4 only, and it's doing really, really amazingly. I couldn't be prouder or happier with that game. That game right now is in the running for my game of the year. I have been so impressed with how much I enjoyed it. I knew I would enjoy it. I was always very excited for it. Because I do enjoy From Software as a developer. I've really liked the Dark Souls games, even though I haven't been very good at them. Bloodborne, it's just, like I've said before on the channel too, it's like the 3 Souls games they made leading into Bloodborne, I think were them slowly fine-tuning that kind of gameplay mechanic and that style of game. And then Bloodborne was like their ultimate amalgamation of everything they had tried to do. Like they were just working towards what I think Bloodborne turned out to be. So I just love Bloodborne, and I am so happy to see it at number 9. 2 console exclusives in the first 2 spots on this list. Pretty amazing. If you have a PlayStation 4 and you haven't played Bloodborne, you're crazy. Pick it up. Steep-ass learning curve, but completely worth it. The game is amazing. I implore you to try it and see if it's something that works with you. It doesn't work for everybody, so you may try it and find out you hate it, and that's okay. But you should at least give it a shot and see what you think about it. Coming in at number 8 is a pretty big surprise. But it's only kind of a surprise. It is Lego Jurassic World, 1.39 million units. Now, we know this is a game that is multi-platform, so we know it came out on all the 8th gen consoles, Wii U, PS4, Xbox One. I'm assuming 360 and PS3 as well, and probably PC. I don't know that for sure, but I'm pretty sure. Regardless, multi-platform game, all total, Lego Jurassic World, 1.39 million units. Very, very impressive, and obviously we know the reason that this game has sold so well. One is the Lego games are great, so let's give it up to them. Traveler's Tales makes great Lego games. Also, Jurassic World was a mammoth hit at the box office. Far, far bigger than anyone, including Universal, ever could have hoped for. It's now the 3rd highest grossing domestic film, and I think it's probably the 3rd highest grossing worldwide as well. Unbelievable. Largest opening weekend of all time domestically, which we know will be beaten once Star Wars Episode 7 comes out in just a couple months' time. That's going to probably change that, but that doesn't take away how impressive Jurassic World's box office showing has been, and Lego Jurassic World the game. Also, I think the movie was fucking awesome. By the way, just so you know, random sharing of my movie opinion, loved Jurassic World. But yeah, the Lego games always do well, and this is no exception, and I think that the surprise hit of Jurassic World the film has helped Lego Jurassic World the game be that much more popular. So only a couple months on the shelves as well, and 1.39 million units, 8th place showing. Pretty impressive for Lego Jurassic World. Moving on to number 7, this is one I wouldn't have ever guessed would be on this list, but it's interesting nonetheless. Dying Light at number 7, 1.53 million units. Another one where we know it's a multi-platform game, so PS4, Xbox One, and PC sales are all going to be rolled into it. It was pretty controversial because it had a lot of hype, then the hype was dying, then the hype was coming back, then it released, and a lot of people felt early on that it wasn't very good and wasn't living up to the hype. It was a very weird sort of thing. But I started to hear from a lot of people that after time, people sort of got back into it, and people were seeing and appreciating what that game was doing. I assume it had some patch updates and maybe even some content updates to do so. I don't know that for sure either, but I would think that might have been the case. Regardless, it's a game that ultimately people ended up really enjoying. And it's another zombie game, and I know for a lot of people it's just like, oh crap, more zombie games, let's be more original. And I agree, but I still think there's a place for a good zombie game. And if Dying Light is a good zombie game, then awesome. I'm glad that it turned out to sell so well. I'm very curious. I wanted to try it for a while, but now my hype is kind of subsided, and I don't really know if I'll have any reason to go back and play it. I don't need to spend money on that game, but, regardless, very impressive. The hype obviously helped the game because it came in at number 7 so far for the first half of 2015. Moving on to number 6, this is really exciting for me. The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask 3D comes in at number 6, 1.78 million units for the 3DS. So man, the power of Zelda still remains, thank God. Super cool to see. Majora's Mask, we know, has kind of been treated as the black sheep of the 3D Zelda games. I think for the whole franchise, we would know the black sheep is Zelda 2: The Adventures of Link, which is a fucking awesome game, and I think it's a shame that a lot of people don't like it, but that's what it is. I really liked that game. Majora's Mask is amazing, but it's a game that, if you were going to pick a 3D Zelda game that maybe a lot of Zelda fans never had a chance to try, or newer Zelda fans never had gone back to play, I would think it would be Majora's Mask. And it's a game that a lot of people love. Many people, including one of my best buddies, hold it as their favorite Zelda game. It has that very cult kind of Zelda following where some people think it's the best Zelda game. And I can appreciate that. I think the game is amazing. That it's time mechanic where you're working within the same 3-day period, and the whole world and the town and the areas around the town are all working on a schedule that's the same. The weather is on the same schedule all 3 days. That was revolutionary in 2000, I think, when the game came out. I don't want to say it was 2000. I'd never seen a game do that, and I was so taken back by how cool that was. I was enamored with that game and that game's world, and that's why I loved playing through it. Plus, it's a Zelda game. Even though there's no Ganondorf, that was too bad. It was still a great Zelda game. Yeah, there's no Zelda even in the game, right? Maybe I can't remember that. Anyway, regardless, it is a great game. Skull Kid was a really great villain, and what they did with Majora's Mask as a mechanic and as sort of an entity in that game was really cool. Amazing final boss battle. It introduced Fierce Deity Link, and it just did great things. We've never been back to Termina since playing that game, and maybe it'll come back in some form in the future, but obviously, people's interest in Zelda and their appreciation of Majora's Mask as a game still exists. The game reviewed very well, of course, and it sold better than I thought. I knew it did very well, but to come in at number 6 is really, really impressive. So, wow, that's just... I'm just really happy to see such a thing. Coming in at number 5 is a game that is also very surprising to me. The Elder Scrolls Online, Tamriel Unlimited. Now, the Elder Scrolls Online coming in at this list means, since it's a Tamriel Unlimited edition, that means it's only the console versions, which is PS4 and Xbox One only. The PC game, which came out like a year or two ago, obviously isn't being included in this, but it comes in at number 5, 1.83 million units, and I love Bethesda, and I love the Elder Scrolls series, and I really want to try Elder Scrolls Online. I have heard so many different opinions on this. I don't know if I should expect it to be good or not. A lot of people didn't like it when it released on the PC initially, a year or two ago. When the Tamriel Unlimited Edition was coming out, a lot of people were saying, wow, they made this game much better. It's really fun. It's finally what they promised. It's a great game. Everyone should try it because you'll enjoy it. But then there are still some people that say, well, it didn't really live up. I have a friend who actually picked it up, and after a day or two, he was just not into it. He's like, man, it's not as good as I was hoping, and he kind of lost interest after only a couple days. And this is a game that's supposed to last for a very long time. So as a huge RPG fan, and as somebody who likes the Elder Scrolls universe, I still will eventually play it, and I want to see what it's like. So my curiosity remains, but regardless, it sold better than I expected. You know, that's another game that's only about 2 months old, and 1.83 million units to make it into 5th place on only 2 platforms. So very, very impressive with the Elder Scrolls Online. Number 4, a game I'm very happy to see on this list, Mortal Kombat X. 2.37 million units. So huge jump from 5th place to 4th, where in 5th place we go from 1.83 million to 4th place at 2.37. That's like 500,000 increase. And so yeah, Mortal Kombat X, a little controversial with the DLC stuff when it came out, and I get it because I hate some of the DLC structure stuff too. But I've discussed my feelings on Mortal Kombat X when I bought it and played it on launch day. The game is great. It looks great. The control is awesome. The character selection is fantastic. The moves are great. There's a lot of modes to play, online and offline. And even without any DLC, I haven't purchased any DLC for that game. No extra characters or anything. And I have more than enough content to enjoy that game. So they didn't release an empty game and try to gouge us for more money. My personal opinion, as somebody who owns the game, they released a complete Mortal Kombat X game. Absolutely, they released a complete game. And then there's additional DLC stuff for anyone who wants to blow their money on that stuff. I think it's stupid to blow their money on that stuff. But since I was able to enjoy Mortal Kombat X to its fullest launch day without any DLC, I've enjoyed it, and obviously people still like Mortal Kombat. I'm really happy to see it doing so well. Another game on only 2 platforms, PS4 and Xbox One, and we know just the other day that they canceled the last-gen versions of that game. I made a video discussing that, so you can check it out if you're curious. But those are going to be the only 2 versions of that game that exist, you know, 2.37 million units for 4th place. Awesome. Way to go, Mortal Kombat. Way to go, gamers. I'm glad to see people are still enjoying that game. Goes back to my childhood, so I have a very deep-seated love for Mortal Kombat. 3rd place is a game that is not surprising to me. Batman Arkham Knight, 2.95 million units, almost 3 million units on 2. Well, okay, is it 2 platforms? Is it 3 platforms? Is it 2.5 platforms? We know that the PS4 and Xbox One versions released to very little issues, and people love it, and it sold very well. The PC version is the different story, right? So the PC version was released alongside the console versions and available for, I want to say, 2 days before all of the issues with that game made it so that the Rocksteady pulled the PC game from store shelves and from Steam. So it was no longer available for purchase and has not been available for purchase since. So that's a huge factor when you consider the current sales, because I mean, obviously the PC sales wouldn't really touch what the console sales would do, but they would obviously be much more than what they were after only 2 days of sales. But they still did have 2 days of PC sales to include, and regardless of how much that impacts or doesn't impact the sales, coming in at third place with 2.95 million, almost 3 million units sold is very impressive. And I have the PS4 version of that game. It's amazing. I am so impressed and happy with that game because I enjoyed the first 2 games a lot, but I didn't love them. Like, some people were just like falling to their knees praising what the first 2 games had done. And again, I enjoyed them, but they didn't blow me away. Arkham Knight is a great game. It almost blows me away. It's a really fantastic game, and anyone who has a console, an 8th gen console, PS4, Xbox One, you definitely should check it out. It's an amazing Batman game. There's a lot of content. Again, I haven't touched any of the DLC for that game because I don't care about DLC, but what they released initially without DLC is still an amazing game, so I'm glad to see that game sold so well. But we kind of knew it. There was crazy marketing for that game, so they definitely did their job as far as getting that game into people's hands. So, number 2 blows my mind. Absolutely blows my mind. Battlefield Hardline is the number 2 selling game for the first half of 2015. 3.05 million units. Wow, that is impressive. Especially because Battlefield is a very popular series, but Battlefield Hardline wasn't getting very good press. There didn't seem to be a lot of hype for it. Even Battlefield players didn't seem very interested, and most of the reviews really weren't even that positive. I mean, they weren't like horrible or scathing, but the game was just coming off as fairly average as far as reviews seem. So I didn't think that this game made much of a dent at all. Boy, was I wrong. Not only did it make the top 10 list of the year so far, it made number 2. That is amazing. It's so better than games like Batman and Mortal Kombat. I mean, that's just insane. Or Zelda. Like, wow. I don't know what else to say. I do like good first-person shooters. I'm a pretty big FPS fan. Battlefield has never impressed me, so I never got into it. I definitely didn't care about Hardline. Hardline looked even less interesting to me than the mainline Battlefield games, but apparently people are still into it, man. People love their Battlefield. Battlefield Hardline, despite not much hype and only average reviews, sold incredibly well, 3.05 million units. I guess congrats to Visceral and to EA because that game has done really well. And number 1 is a game that probably won't be a surprise. Witcher 3: The Wild Hunt. Number 1 so far with about probably 3 months worth of sales. 3.2 million units. So, wow. Good job to CD Projekt Red. Congrats to The Witcher. My feelings on The Witcher. I made a video probably 2 days after that game came out on my feelings of the beginning of that game and why it was driving me crazy because it was just so many cutscenes and movies, and I played that game for hours and I barely even controlled my character. I was watching so many freaking cutscenes, and it drove me crazy. It drove me insane. There's no doubt that there is an amazing game with The Witcher if you get past that stuff, but I just didn't have the time or the patience when it came out. That video I made is so many people watched that video. It's one of my highest viewed videos, and people hated it. It's like the downvote to upvote on that video is insanely uneven, and so everyone thought I was a complete dumbass for not liking that game, and that's fine. I knew that was going to happen. I even said so in the video. I stand by my thoughts. I hate the way that game begins. One day I will go back and experience what happens after the beginning bullshit of that game and finally discover why that game is as good as people say it is, because I believe it's good. I was excited for it. But that being said, despite my opinion, people are raving about this game. It's got so many great reviews. Everyone is in love with it. A lot of people say it may be the game of the year, and it really may turn out to win game of the year. I don't think it should be, but I totally recognize that it's very likely it could win. I think there are other games that are going to... With Metal Gear Solid 5 just coming out, for example, reviews are much better for that than they were for The Witcher, so I feel like right now Metal Gear Solid 5 or maybe Bloodborne are also in the running for game of the year at this point. So we'll see what happens there, but regardless, CD Projekt Red did a great thing. They made a game that people love, and it sold fantastically well, and this isn't even including digital downloads, and this is the kind of game that I would wager has a lot of downloads. I would think Splatoon and Batman would be other games that probably have a lot of downloaded versions of them, digital sales that could be included here. But yeah, I guess you know, The Witcher 3 is a big deal, and I'm glad to see it sold so well because it's a huge epic scope project. It's the kind of game I typically love and adore and I want more of. So even though I've had my issues with it and I haven't gone back to play it anymore, I still appreciate that this kind of game, the game with this kind of scope and vision, and that people obviously love and has reviewed very well, sold so well. That's a good thing for the industry, and I think it's good for a company like CD Projekt Red, which I was recently reminded of. They funded that game themselves, too. So there's a lot of cool things with how The Witcher 3 played out, even though I haven't enjoyed it so far. There's a lot of good things going on there, so I'm happy to see it selling so well. You know, it's wouldn't have been my first choice to be number one, obviously, but, you know, we're not surprised. We knew The Witcher 3 was a big deal. People love that game. So, you know, that's the number one selling game. So, quick recap. I'm going to scroll back through here if my thing will scroll for me. Number 10 is Splatoon. Number 9 is Bloodborne. Number 8 is Lego Jurassic World. Number 7 is Dying Light. Number 6 is Zelda Majora's Mask. Number 5 is Elder Scrolls Online. Number 4 is Mortal Kombat X. Number 3 is Batman Arkham Knight. Number 2 is Battlefield Hardline. And number 1 is The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. So that's it. I thought it would be fun to kind of discuss this list, go over it, see what you guys think, share my thoughts. So tell me, what do you think of this list? Which games are you happy to see on this list? Which games do you really love that obviously maybe hadn't sold well enough to make it to this list, and maybe you're just upset that people haven't bought it the way you would like them to? There's a lot of games I'd like to see higher on this list that I've played so far, but it is what it is. You know, I think it's still interesting to see this stuff. A lot of good games on this list, selling really well. You know, very happy to see Splatoon on this list, Majora's Mask, Mortal Kombat, Bloodborne, of course. Very, very happy with a lot of the titles on this list. So, yeah, I'm going to link the list below if you want to read some more details about it. Again, it's through VG Charts, so it's not maybe 100% accurate, but it's probably close enough. And so that's it. You know, I guess we'll see how the rest of the year pans out. Second half of the year is coming up. Holidays coming up. Lots of huge titles to expect. Metal Gear Solid just dropped. Many big games coming up soon. Super Mario Maker next week, and a lot of things in November and December. So that's it. You know, thanks for tuning in, guys. Share your thoughts about this list and stuff below. This is Rob of Rule of Two Review, and I'll catch you guys next time on another video.